This here is an Apple home compatible wired smart smoke detector. It also includes a motion sensor, carbon monoxide sensor, a sound sensor, and temperature and humidity sensors. So with so few options for a wired smart smoke detector here in the US that supports Apple Home, I was really curious to see if the new Owl wired smart smoke detector could fill the void. But now that HomePods can actually detect traditional smoke alarms, do you really even need a smart smoke detector? We'll discuss all that and more today as we put this thing here to the test. Let's go. Yo, what's up guys? My name is Shane and this channel is all about building an easy Apple Home smart home with new videos and live streams published every week. Now, I had first heard about the Owl Smart Smoke Detector way back at CES 2021, I believe, but they only recently started shipping them with native Apple Home support. I guess it took them a while to get that HomeKit certification, but it is here now. It also supports Google Home and IFTTT if that's something you're into. Now, there are a few things I want to test today. One, obviously, does it detect smoke well and send me notifications to my phone? Two, I want to test the interconnectability of this. So if a smoke detector is interconnected, it means if one smoke alarm in your house goes off, it will trigger all the other ones in your house to also go off. So if this is truly interconnected, then it should trigger my other traditional smoke alarms and vice versa. In fact, it says right here on the box that it should. And of course, I want to test out that HomeKit support and all the other sensors that are built into this thing. But first, a word from today's sponsor, trendmicro. Now, just like you want to protect you and your family from physical threats like fire and carbon monoxide in your house, you also want protection from online threats. I've been using trendmicro's premium security suite for the past few years on all of my devices to add extra protection against malware, viruses, ransomware, and other threats. You can use it on up to 10 devices, including PCs, Macs, iPads, phones, pretty much anything, and it's very easy to set up and use. It also includes a VPN that will turn any public hotspot into a secure Wi-Fi connection, as well as other tools like identity theft protection, parental controls, and even 24/7 emergency assistance. Check out the link in the description and use code SHANE10 for 10% off your purchase of the Premium Security Suite. Thanks to trendmicro for protecting all of my family's devices and for sponsoring today's video. All right, so let's take a closer look at the Owl Home wired smoke detector. Again, it comes in white or black. Nice clean design with the Owl logo in the middle. The white version has a silver graded metal ring around the outside. We have a pretty standard looking mounting bracket. You can see our HomeKit code here on the back. Additionally, you can see two toggle switches, one for power and the other is for the microphone. So let me explain this real quick. This smoke detector can monitor multiple things, as we mentioned earlier, of course, smoke, but also carbon monoxide, temperature, humidity, as well as noise levels. So this can notify you of any loud noises such as other alarms or glass breaking, etc. And it uses a built-in microphone for that. So if you want to disable that, there is a physical switch right on the back to do so. You also have a USB-C port that can be used for charging the built-in battery, and there's also the connection port for your wires. If you end up getting one of these, I'd recommend taking a photo of the back here for a few reasons. It does contain some good information like what the different color LEDs and various beeps mean. There's also some information regarding maintenance. And lastly, there is your HomeKit code. And this is the only instance of the HomeKit code that I've found on the device or in the packaging. I always recommend storing your HomeKit codes, but I really want to emphasize that here with this product. I actually had a little trouble getting mine to catch under the mounting bracket when I was installing it, and did end up scraping off most of the HomeKit code, rendering it unreadable. So at that point, if you haven't saved your HomeKit code, you would not be able to pair this in Apple Home. So please store your HomeKit codes. All right, now we have our wire connector. There are 3 wires that should match up to what you have in your ceiling: a hot or a line wire, a neutral wire, and a third wire that is used for interconnecting all of the smoke alarms in your house. They give you some wire nuts and screws for installation, and lastly, our user guide. Everything is pretty much the same on the black version, except that metal piece around the outside is black and not chrome like on the white one. To install, I removed my traditional smoke alarm first. Here we can see the wires coming out of the ceiling. Note, you probably do want to turn off the power at the junction box to your smoke detectors before messing with any of these wires, just to be safe, and just make sure nothing is getting any power. I removed the connector for the old smoke detector, and we can see the wires coming from the ceiling that match up perfectly with our new smoke detector. We got black, red, and white. I just wired up the new connector, installed the mounting bracket, then I connected the smoke detector so I could add it in the app or in Apple Home. Now, I do usually recommend downloading a product manufacturer's app for the initial setup, just so you can get any firmware updates and stuff like that that might be available if nothing else. I did that and created an account in the Owl Home app. The app can automatically detect nearby devices via Bluetooth. If yours is not already in pairing mode, you can hold the button on the front, the little Owl logo, for a few seconds until the LED starts flashing blue. You'll pair the device to your Wi-Fi network, and then you have an option to add it to HomeKit. For whatever reason, every time I tried to pair the smoke detector to HomeKit through the Owl Home app, it would default to Pappy's house. Usually it lets you choose which HomeKit home you want to put it in. Pappy's house is actually a second HomeKit home that I set up for my grandpa a few hours away. So I did have to jump into the Home app to pair it directly there. But once successful, you can see we have various sensors that are all exposed to HomeKit. There's a motion sensor, temperature sensor, humidity sensor, smoke sensor, and carbon monoxide sensor. All very cool. Now, don't forget to turn the power back on at your breaker. In other words, don't be an idiot like me. Yes, I totally forgot to flip the breaker back on. Eventually, the battery died and it lost connection to HomeKit, so on and so forth. I actually thought the product was having connection issues until I realized it was my own fault. I never turned the breaker back on. I won't admit how long it took me to realize that. Let's just say the Owl support team through their app was very responsive and helpful, so that is always a plus. Now, speaking of the app, let's take a quick look here. It's a very nice looking app. Again, you do need to create an account. We can see our temperature and humidity readings right here. Kind of a HomeKit style look for our scenes and devices. We can see the temperature and humidity for each individual smoke detector. There is a toggle on each device, so this will turn on or off notifications for that device. If you tap on a device, you can see those readings again, and here you have the option to turn on or off notifications individually for motion or sound. Of course, smoke and carbon monoxide notifications are always on. You can specify the timeout of the motion sensor from 1 to 30 seconds, which is real nice. You can also specify the sound level that you would like to trigger notifications for sound, from 10 decibels all the way up to 100. There is a dashboard that gives you a graph of the temperature and humidity. Not really sure how helpful this is. Currently, from what I can see, it only seems to give you the readings for like the past few hours. So I don't know about that, but the activity section is cool. You see a log of all the past notifications as well as temperature readings. In the manage section, you can invite other family members if you wish, and you can also create and manage scenes. So this allows you to change the sound and motion notification settings for different times and stuff like that. There doesn't appear to be a scheduling option, so I guess you will have to enable your different scenes here in the Owl Home app manually, but this is a really nice feature. Maybe if you want the noise sensor more sensitive at night while you're sleeping, you can do stuff like that. I do wish there was a way to schedule these, but hopefully the Owl team will push an update in the future that'll enable something like that. All right, so now it's time to test this smoke alarm. I do have some of this here. This is some canned smoke, so this is made for testing smoke alarms and smoke detectors. So I'm gonna use this, and I'm looking for a couple of different things. First of all, obviously, I'm looking to make sure this smoke alarm will just notify me. I wanna get notifications on my phone that smoke has been detected, both from the Owl. I'm expecting both from the Owl Home app and in HomeKit. I want to get those notifications. And then I'm also going to be testing the interconnected piece of this. So this should set off my other interconnected smoke alarms, just the older traditional ones throughout my house. And then after that, I want to do another test where I'm basically spraying the smoke into one of my traditional smoke detectors, and I want to see if this one will go off because of that, and then in turn send me a notification, through the Home app or through the Owl Home app. So without further ado, let's give it a shot. All right, so smoke detector is just right here, right out of frame. Let me see if I can pull that up. Okay, you can probably see that there. Here we go. Come on, anything coming out of there? Seems like that ought to set it off. There we go. There we go. Finally got it. All right. Flashing red. See if our notifications come through. Looks like I got a notification from the Owl Home app. Let's check in HomeKit. I should have gotten a notification in the Home app, and so far I'm not seeing it. In the Home app, can you see that? It says smoke detected, no. That's a bit disappointing. So first test, okay. It did notify me in the Owl Home app, which is good. Said smoke has been detected, need to evacuate. Unfortunately, I did not get a notification in the Apple Home app, which is a bummer. So that's what I would want, to build automations off of and stuff like that in HomeKit. When smoke is detected, turn the lights on, unlock the doors, whatever. So that didn't seem to work. I also checked, and it seems like my other smoke detectors in the house were not going off right now, which again, kind of a bummer. So now I'm gonna do a test, kind of the flip side of that, and I'm gonna spray smoke in one of my older traditional smoke detectors and see if it triggers this one, therefore sending us a notification or not. This is actually, like I said, a traditional one. We'll see if this one being set off will trigger the new Owl smoke detector. It's loud. Well, I got some notifications from my HomePods that they detected smoke alarms, but nothing from the Owl Home smart smoke detector. All right, so my initial testing was a little disappointing. I went on and actually tested them even further for a while using matches and different things. I also installed and set up the second Owl smoke detector. I will say that each time I set off the Owl smoke alarm, after that first test that you saw earlier, the smoke sensor in HomeKit was triggered, which sent me that critical, Home app notification, which is good. Maybe that first test was just like a fluke. I don't know what the deal was there. We did get the notification again from the Owl Home app, just never did in HomeKit, but every time I tested it after that, it did seem to work. Now, speaking of HomeKit notifications, you might be wondering why you might need something like this, since the HomePod and the HomePod Mini can actually detect your existing dumb traditional smoke alarms, kind of as you saw earlier in that test. And this feature does work really well. So why would you need a smart smoke detector? Well, if all you care about is getting notifications when smoke is detected, like when you're away from home or whatever, then there is absolutely no need for a smart smoke detector if you have HomePods throughout your house. As long as your traditional smoke detectors, are in good working condition, then the HomePod and the HomePod Mini can hear those traditional smoke alarms or detectors anytime they're triggered, and you will get notified immediately on your Apple devices. Now, the one thing you can't do with your HomePods is create automations based on the smoke detectors, that smoke detection feature in the HomePod. So if you're, really into home automation and want to create, let's say an automation that turns on the lights, all the lights in the house, and unlocks the doors, etc., when smoke is detected, then that's when you would need a smart smoke detector. You'll just need something that shows up in the Apple Home app as a smoke detector or a smoke sensor. So as of right now, we cannot create those automations using the smoke sensor in the HomePod, but again, you can do that if you have a smoke detector or a smoke sensor like the Owl Home that's exposed to HomeKit. Let's go ahead and cover all the pros and cons and just everything I've learned from testing this and try to determine if this would be a good addition to your smart home. So far, the interconnected feature does not work for me. When the owl is triggered, it will not trigger my traditional smoke detectors, and it also does not trigger other owl smoke detectors. My traditional smoke alarms are all interconnected and will trigger each other, but when they're set off, they do not trigger my owl smoke detectors. So this to me was a real bummer. I think it would be ideal for this to work. Then someone could just essentially get one smart smoke detector and could then get notifications if any of your smoke detectors went off because they're interconnected. Now, I did hear from the support team at Owl Home regarding this, and here is what they said. We've heard some users not being able to get the interconnect working with their traditional alarms either. Our team is looking into this issue right now. We'll report back when I have more info. So I will follow up down in the video description if I hear any updates on this. The HomeKit integration of the smoke detector is one of the main reasons to get this. After that first test, again, this did seem to work really well. Obviously, I couldn't test out the carbon monoxide sensor, but I'm hoping and assuming that this works well. The other sensors, unfortunately, weren't really that reliable for me, both in HomeKit or in the Apple Home app. So the motion sensor was constantly triggered when there was like no motion, and at times I experienced similar issues with the sound sensor in the Owl Home app. I don't know what the deal was with that. The temperature and humidity sensors though did seem accurate enough when compared to other sensors that I have in the same area, other HomeKit sensors, so those were good. Overall, it's a really well-built product, I think. It looks and feels very premium, but it is lacking some of the reliability that I was really hoping for. Having a motion sensor, temperature, and humidity sensor all exposed to HomeKit built into each smoke detector could be really useful for home automation. Unfortunately, at this time, I just don't find them reliable enough to use for me personally. I really hope they push some firmware updates and improve on these sensors, moving forward, especially in HomeKit. If they can do that and fix the interconnectivity issue, then this would be a great product. Their customer support has been incredible, and hopefully that's an indication that they will continue to work on and improve this for their customers. But at a whopping $180 US, it is hard for me to recommend this right now unless you just really want a smoke and carbon monoxide sensor that works natively with Apple Home. I hope this video was helpful. Drop a comment down below and let me know. Do you think something like this is worth it, or are you just fine using your HomePods to alert you when your traditional smoke alarms are detected? Thanks again to trendmicro for sponsoring today's video. Here's a video right here on some of my favorite, most recommended Apple Home smart home products. Check that out next if you like. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.